Hello again. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network, taking you into the NASCAR garage area, and we are loving every minute of it and loving the fact that it is race time. We're all headed to Daytona for the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. I'm Steve Post, pit road reporter for Motor Racing Network, joined as I am each and every week on the show by 25-time winning crew chief, championship winning crew chief, and crew chief for the new Legacy Motor Club team for Jimmy Johnson, Todd Gordon. Hey man, how are you?
I'm a little stressed.
I was just thinking that last year we came in here. Todd's story is a longtime crew chief up at Team Penske. Last year retired from the crew chief gig, became a lazy radio guy.
I don't know about lazy.
Yeah, no, couldn't stay off the sides. Working part-time with Jimmy Johnson, and that part-time schedule is this week the Daytona 500. I do imagine the nerves are probably it's probably a pretty neat time as a competitive guy. It's got to be neat for you right now.
It is. It's a different environment that I've been in.
Yeah, true.
We got to race our way in.
Well, that's the first thing. Yeah,
that's as this recording comes, that's probably if you caught it right when it came out, it's tonight we qualify.
Right, exactly.
We'll see where it goes, but it's interesting and a great opportunity. To come forward and work with a 7-time champion.
Right, yeah.
In a part-time schedule. And that's, it's cool because I still get to kind of tickle that itch of the racer in me.
Sure.
But not be buried in it where I've got to, it's 365 days just
right.
dust dawn. So a little bit of work gone in the last couple of weeks. Really got to thank everybody at Legacy Motor Club. It's everybody's digging in and following suit with a kind of format that Dave Ellens and 43 team, they had plenty of speed last year. So we're gonna follow that path. And we'll get a chance to, if we get through everything we'll get a chance to work on some other things for Friday and Saturday, but trying to get through these duels.
Yeah. So if you're watching this Wednesday, Thursday, fingers crossed, Friday, we will know the answer.
Yes.
We'll see what happens with it. And honestly, the NASCAR schedule, Todd, will kick off with the Daytona 500, the Great American Race. And obviously it's its own entity. It's you've won it. You understand the dynamic of the Daytona 500. But it's also the first of 16 straight races as well. So, how do you, as a full-time crew chief, how did you balance, not getting all in the weeds about Daytona because knowing you got a lot coming up after that?
It's so easy in the off season, just focus on Daytona. But you've still got to have a plan coming forward, and you try to have your build sheets out because you've got to really this West Coast swing.
Right,
you'll
exactly.
come back from Daytona and you'll get one day with that car. Yeah. It's got to load. I would say. Typically, probably Monday night, maybe Tuesday by noon, but you're going to get very little time, and then you've got to get ahead. And some teams you'll end up with cars coming out to you, and you may actually go to California with your Vegas car as your backup. So you've got to have 2 weeks ahead. You have to use this off season to get ahead of it and not lose the focus on what the grind is going to be in trying to make sure your Daytona stuff's in a good spot. All I have to do is worry about Daytona right now, but definitely trying to get those cars together. Like I said, some teams will go back and forth. The cars will come back. I know at Team Penske we had haulers that would shuttle
haulers. Yeah.
So we would come back every weekend. Some teams will stay on the West Coast.
Right.
I think my teammates will spend one of the weekends out there on the West Coast and kind of flip things around to go to another one and then maybe come back for the second one. It's logistically a challenge from all of these. From a transportation standpoint and from a preparation standpoint, you really you're on edge till you get to that Phoenix race. When you come back from Phoenix, it's like, okay, things are back to normal. Let's work on getting our Atlanta cars together.
And we're 4 races in, so 12 more to go at that point, and work on that. By the way, we're going to talk to James Small, crew chief at Joe Gibbs Racing, Martin Truex Jr. They've already got a win this season, winning out at the Clash last week out at the LA Coliseum. So I think that's always a fascinating dynamic. And we always talk about that. You win the Daytona 500, you've had a great season, but you want to back it up with a great season.
Yeah.
You don't want to just fall off the cliff after winning the Daytona 500. So it's cool. Man, it's cool.
I sat there with Joey as we were taking in the 500 win in 15. He said, "What now?" I said, "Let's win them all."
That's right. We're 1 for 1.
We're the only one that can. So,
right.
But you do. It's such an accomplishment. But you've got to get right back into the grind.
quickly
and get back. Because, to me, my love for Fontana.
Right.
Auto Club Speedway.
That's right.
I wish that I'd won there. Never got a chance to do that. I've had really competitive cars there. But this may be the last race that we put on that 2 mile out there.
That's right. It appears that, yeah.
Wouldn't you love to close the book?
Close the book on that too. Yeah, because it's such a driver team centric friendly track.
Yes.
Yeah, it just
five lanes. Figure out which one you want to enter.
So it's like these tracks. There's tracks. You want to win Darlington. You want to win Fontana. Yeah, probably a Coke 600, endurance. You want to outlast everybody. Yep. There's just these races that you want to win from a driver team performance perspective. There's just a little bit extra. They all count the same in the points, and they're pay about the same as far as that. Well, Daytona doesn't, but it's really, really cool. The other thing we have coming up this weekend, Todd, is we get our first look at the Xfinity Series and the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. I can promise you now there will be triple clutches because I'll go NASCAR Crafts. No, and I'll be right the first time. There'll be triple clutches there. But these series, the nature of these series, it's going to be fun with Daytona, and then we get racing. Xfinity goes right to Auto Club. Trucks, I think they go to Vegas next. But it'll be fun to see a lot of transition in those garages as well.
Yes, and tons of talent coming forward in all the series. And you look at the Truck Series program, and there's moving pieces, right? Kyle Busch to Chevrolet. We've got Tricon now supporting the Toyota piece. You've had such a movement there. It's going to be really cool to see what happens there. Xfinity. We had Junior Motorsports put 3/4 of the Final Four in the field, and they mixed up every pairing.
Every pairing.
So it's going to be fun to see how this all plays out.
Well, when you look at Xfinity Series, the 3 big winners last year, driver-wise, Ty Gibbs, Noah Gragson, and A.J. Allmendinger are all gone. Yeah. And in many instances, they've taken a lot of the parts. Some have taken the parts and pieces with them.
And by the way, we brought Cole Custer back to the Xfinity Series where he was dominant when he drove back there. And it'll be interesting to see how that Cole Custer coming back to the Stewart-Haas Xfinity program, how that affects Riley Herbst in the teammate situation. Program. So he's not alone out there. I think there's so many storylines we can talk about. It'll be really cool to see.
My read on this one, and I posted this back in December, whenever it was. My read on this one is I'm fairly confident Cole Custer is not all on board with the transition and the change. I'm also fairly confident that Cole Custer could turn this into the career year that will launch him back to where he feels like he should be.
Hey, I believe that sometimes in life you've got to step backwards to go forward.
Right.
And I think this is a situation where it'd been kind of, lackluster a couple of years. Here's a chance to go back, reset, and then make your path forward again.
You go down there and you do like a Noah Gragson or Ty Gibbs did last year. You win, 8, 9, 10 races. All of a sudden, you come into that Cup garage again, beating on your chest and ready to go.
And it's not like he looks at that as the last opportunity.
No,
we do have a couple of guys within that
camp
that might be in the next year or two thinking about stepping aside.
We know Kevin's stepping aside, and Eric's trying to retire, but bless his heart, he can't seem to find his way out the door.
So let's see what Cole can do back in the Xfinity Series. I think it's going to be a fun ride.
It is. Yeah, it's going to be great. Motor Racing Network will be there. We'll have all the times and dates and scheduling and programming coming up a little bit later on. Motor Racing Network will be there all weekend long at Daytona. We need to step away. When we come back, James Small, the guy that is 1 for 1 on Victory Lane this season, he'll join us from over at Joe Gibbs Racing next. Welcome back to Crew Call. We are having a great time, and we always love when we go to the Zoom call and catch up with a friend from over at Joe Gibbs Racing, our friend from down under. James Small joins us, fresh off from that win last week at the Clash. Hello, James. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
We're doing well. In our first segment, Todd talked about winning the Daytona 500. Joey asked him, what's next? He said, well, let's just keep winning. We're undefeated. You're undefeated on the season here. It's got to feel really, really good about it, and got to be good to get back to victory lane for you and your guys.
Yeah, definitely. It's great way to start the season. Much better than how we started last season out there in LA. And, everybody through the off season has been super motivated, and now we're all just, excited to get to Daytona.
Yeah, really cool. And you look at it out there, and what a great, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but what a great weekend for you. You unloaded with speed and right from the get-go and really showed it come race time. Is there any place that you can take what you did at the Clash and apply that forward, even if it's just in segments or pieces?
Yeah, maybe the closest really is Martinsville. There's stuff that we learned from, Martinsville 2 last year that we knew we did wrong as soon as the race started or before the race even started, and we were locked in on it. And, so when we applied some of those things and, it's still a very different track and your balance might have to be a little different, but the general philosophy is quite similar. So, Martin said after practice, he's like, man, I just want to get to Martinsville right now. So hopefully we can keep it rolling there.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's for sure. I do want to talk about this. We try to keep this in the garage. We try to talk nuts and bolts and cruises, but I do want to talk to about your driver a little bit. It just seems to me like there's a little bit more fire in the belly, even interviewing him, talking to him a little bit more. What have you noticed as you come into this season about your driver? He's
a different person. We spent more time with him than ever in January. I see him a lot and we've hung out a bit and he's the most motivated I've ever seen him since I've met him in 2017. So, I'm super excited. We all are because we can feel his energy and that's driving all of us along. And, I saw a quote the other day that he's mad. And, after last year, and it wasn't the year we wanted, we had speed and stuff, but just everything went wrong. And we've got a lot to make up for and prove people wrong.
And coming back to the shop after winning at the Clash, I know it's not a points win, but it's getting back to victory lane. It has to kind of settle the nerves for everybody and just focus forward, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. Everybody at the shop is super pumped and, the guys on the crew. And there's a few guys that are on our team that, one guy hadn't even won a race before. And our car chief, Yoshi, he hadn't won a race as in his new position. So just for those guys, it gives them a lot of confidence as well.
No doubt. That is fantastic. That really, truly is. One of the things, and I want to get into this a little bit, you talked about this in your post-race press conference after the Clash, and it's Clash related, but it's related to your season, some of the struggles you had. You talked about this next-gen car philosophy, and you talked about how when you have good long-run speed, last year you'd get a late race caution. When you get good short-run speed, you'd get a long run and that sort of thing. How dynamic is that? How dynamic is that with this race car as we go into the second season with it?
Yeah, it's obviously been, a problem with all cars, but I feel like, it hurts more with this car and other things that are difficult is like you used to have a bad pit stop or something and you'd get back in traffic or whatever and, your balance would change a little bit. But like with this car, there's quite a differential, especially in the intermediates, like between leading and running 5th or running 15th. And, you could come in and make a change expecting to be, in the top 2 or 3, and all of a sudden you have a bad pit stop and then you're plowing your brains out. So, because you're back in like 15th or 20th. So it's the car is just so sensitive in every aspect compared to what we've had before. And, and as you say, like we've always been, focused more on a long run, and that's been Martin's strength. But, we had to kind of change our philosophy as well last year a little bit because especially early in the year, you didn't get long runs. Everyone was crashing or blowing tires. So, you have to factor that into your decision-making a lot more than, what we previously used to.
And you talk about the penalties on, the challenges on pit road and the track position it gives you. We saw a lot of pit road issues last year. That transition to single nut seemed to be very difficult for pit crews, and we saw penalties and pieces like that. Do you see that becoming more normal now that these groups have had a year to digest it?
Yes, I think a lot of people have learned a lot of stuff just in techniques and but I still foresee some issues. It's never going to be perfect and they're always going to be trying to go fast. It's just trying to find that fine balance between, flat out pace and then trying to be consistent and not blowing up because, you're probably going to lose more races than you'll win by, making mistakes than you'll win by being fast. So it's a balance and, that was probably a weakness of our company last year. And, we've spoken about that and changes have been made and hopefully, the whole company is going to be more in tune on pit lane.
You talk about changes, and I want to hit another one here. All three manufacturers resubmitted noses and hoods this year. How do you feel like there was a separation of the parity between the manufacturers last year, and how do you feel like that's going to impact 2023 coming forward for the Toyotas?
Yeah, I definitely, if you're just not beating around the bush, if you want to just look at the pure numbers, the Chevrolet had an advantage. That's the gold standard car, and that's the car that going forward everything is based on is the 2022 Camaro. So that you can never be better than that car. And I think both Ford and Toyota have had the opportunity to close that gap and make some changes, along with Chevrolet, who also had to make some changes, just for cooling. But I think it'll be closer now, and there's still some separation, but it's not as big as what it was.
Neat stuff. Something else a little bit different while we're talking about different things is the crew chief room up at Joe Gibbs Racing. Okay, you're back with Martin. Adam is back with Christopher. Chris Gabart's back with Denny Hamlin, but a little bit of a change with Kyle moving on, Ty and Chris Gale moving up from the Xfinity Series. The dynamic between you crew chiefs, how are you guys gelling together with Chris Gale in the mix as well?
No, it's great to have Chris back. Obviously, he's been at JGR a long time and also worked with him out in Furniture Row. And, it's difficult. It's like, talking to Todd before the show a little bit, like he's 1 year removed and, he's got a lot of catching up to do. So we're trying to help him and fill him in and all the little minute details and silly things about this car and the good things. But, he's got a lot of energy, and so has Ty. So, it's a different atmosphere, that's for sure. But great to have them both in the fold.
Definitely. And you talk about him being and me being removed a year from this thing. A year of next gen under your belt. What didn't you expect?
Gee, that's a good question. I didn't expect to. Well, maybe not. That I don't really know. I didn't expect, the intermediate racing to be, it was decent at times. I really thought all the racing would suck, but there were
several that thought that.
Yeah. So, that was a little bit of a surprise, to be honest. There were still difficulties, but, and we expected to have challenges with the steering and certain systems and things like that and tires. And, the racing was maybe a little bit on those bigger tracks was the one thing.
Yeah. Neat stuff. It really, truly is. So as we start to look forward this week, the Daytona 500, and crew chiefs like Todd Gordon only have to worry about the Daytona 500. Crew chiefs like James Small, you have to worry about the Daytona 500 and the next 15 races coming up. James, how do you pull that balance off with the Great American Race? The biggest win of the year is first, but not getting so focused on that you lose sight of the whole the whole first part of the season.
Yeah, it's challenging, that's for sure, especially going into the West Coast swing and you don't have a lot of time every week to prepare the cars before they leave. So it's, trying to wrap up the Daytona stuff today, honestly, and then just focus full on Fontana and Vegas and Phoenix. So, with the Speedway stuff, I think between us all, we've came up with a pretty decent package. So the time, aside from all the little details you put into on the car, it's not too involved in a setup sense. But then, a lot of stuff's changed, for the other tracks. So that's going to be more time intense. And, the way I always look at it, we'll probably go down to Daytona and wreck anyway. So there's no point getting too carried away.
He's grounded. He's definitely grounded. He's realistic, which is interesting. Hey, you talk about that West Coast swing and being prepared for it. You've got California, Vegas, Phoenix, 3 in a row there. How we talked a little bit in the opening about the logistics of this. How do you handle that? Do you guys come back every week and then send cars out to meet it? Do you end up working out there? How does that all work for you guys at JGR?
So, the way we've been doing it the last couple of years, the haulers stay out there the whole time, and then we send out and we fly back after every race, and then we have a change-out truck going back and forth in between. So we'll come back and generally work Monday, Tuesday, sometimes in the Wednesday morning, and then the truck will then, the change-out truck will take all their cars out there together, and they'll switch them out and do the same thing the week after. So, I think other teams do it a little different, but that, has been the best for us in giving us the most time to work on the cars. And especially if, there's something in tech a week before, you can come back and make adjustments and things like that. So, it all operates really smoothly.
I'd ask you about the next gen car, which I still don't know why we're calling it the next gen car, but I guess
this gen car.
This gen car. How do you feel as far as parts and pieces and inventory? I know we're not at full capacity, but I think compared to where we were at last year, everyone I'm hearing is a little bit more comfortable, especially with this West Coast swing.
Yeah, we're definitely in a better scenario on the chassis and clip side of things. It's been a little bit challenging, to be honest, because the cars went back over the winter to Technique for the updates to the rear crash structure. So we've been a little bit at the mercy of them getting them done and getting the cars back. But that's kind of accelerated the last couple of weeks and what we're getting back. So it's made planning a little easier. And, the build side, easier to, figure out up until about Phoenix, Atlanta now. So, but there's still, as Todd said before, there's been changes, with some of the parts. So we're still struggling, with hood exit ducts and some of the new stuff and a couple of other body panels we're really short on. So we've got cars rolling around here with no rear bumpers. So hopefully we get a few more of them in soon. Yeah,
definitely. The logistics of the off season and making changes, right? And you look forward to it. I talked a little bit about this with Steve, but Daytona, you said, you focus at this point. You're looking into California at this point. Talk about getting to California. Probably the last time we race on this 2-mile oval. Your thoughts and desires there?
Yeah, to me, it's sad. I love that track, and everybody on our team does. And, we've been very fast there over the years and won back there in 2018. And, we're looking forward to getting back there and really want to win the last one there. That would mean a lot. So, it's those old tracks, beat up tracks like Atlanta, Fontana, Darlington, Homestead. To me, they're my favorite tracks. And it's a shame we're going to lose another one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Final question for you here, James. You're, of course, you're not a native of of America. You're a native of Australia, and we're close to the end of the sprint car season. We do Wing Nation around here, so I talk a lot of sprint car racing. But do you follow along with whether it's that or the V8 series, the supercar series? Do you follow along with Australian racing all that much?
No, I actually, this off season with the sprint cars, I have a lot because one of my good friends, Timmy Hodges, he started a team this season that James McFadden was driving for out there. So, I watched, the Classic the other week, watched that live the other morning, and they had a little bit of an issue and finished 5th, which was disappointing. But, that's the most I've kept up with it. And then obviously the V8. So I've fallen off a little bit, but I still, watch as much as I can. It's just time restrictions, the job.
the job and the 16 hours difference or something like that.
Yeah, the time difference isn't good. So usually if I'm up at night working, I can watch a race.
Yeah. The Classic actually laid out so it played on a Sunday morning around here during the off season. So we actually got to see the Grand Annual Classic is the equivalent of the Knoxville Nationals, the Australian equivalent of the Knoxville Nationals. And we got to see it on a Sunday morning with breakfast. It was really kind of neat. And local guy passed Sheldon Haudenschild in the last corner to pick up the win. So it was good. That's for sure. And good indeed was the start you guys had, James. We appreciate you joining us here on Crew Call. We'll see you in Daytona and on throughout the season, but thanks for joining us here on the show.
Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
There we go. That is James Small, crew chief for Martin Truex Jr. over at Joe Gibbs Racing. Stay with us. More Crew Call in just a moment. Welcome back to Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Todd Gordon and Steve Post. And boy, I'm telling you what, I always love talking to James Small. He just is a breath of fresh air. We didn't get any cuss words out of him. That was our edit button didn't get used. We were on the ready. We had WD-40 on it, ready to go. But he is just such a fascinating character. He really is.
He is. What a great guy. And a tough season last year to come back, kick the season off with a win, dedicated to doing things well, has been right with Martin, back to the Furniture Road days, as he talked about Chris Gale.
Yeah, that's right.
That relationship coming back. I kind of forgot about Chris and Eric Jones going out there to run the 77 car, I guess it was, for the Furniture Road, their first year out there. So it's kind of like a rejuvenation, right? He gets Chris Gale and back in the fold, and it's what a great leader.
Yeah.
And he's had challenges last year, and I missed the playoffs, being top 5 in points or something like that. Opportunities to win. It'd be really cool to see how he transitions this Clash win into the jump start of the season. And like you talked about, they seem to have a different step. You're bumping their step, so it'd be fun to watch.
The other thing I love about what he told us, I love when I hear of new crew guys getting their first wins.
Oh yeah,
man! I'll tell you what. You've won a lot of races, and we've all been around it. But boy, new crew guys getting wins, that has got to be really, really cool, because the men and women that work on these teams, especially this time of year, they are grinding.
Yes,
they are getting calls from home, just as you indicated, getting called. When are you going to be home? I have no idea.
Yeah.
And at least when the family's sitting there watching it on TV and they can see us celebrating in victory lane, that's got to be a big reward for those guys as well.
Yeah, definitely. This time of year is a grind, as he talked about. They're on to California at this point.
Yeah,
and this is before we've gotten loaded up to go to Daytona.
Right.
Because the timing is different on the airing here, but. You've got to be forward thinking. You've got to be, this time is such a grind to get California, Vegas. You've got to have thoughts of Phoenix going together. And oh, by the way, when we get back from Daytona, this car is going to have to turn around and go to Atlanta. There's just so much that happens in this first, month of the season because of that West Coast swing. And as you talked about, 16 in a row. It's a grind for these guys.
One of our crew chief friends, or you, is going to win the Daytona 500 on Sunday evening.
Yeah.
You've done it before. What does that mean? What does that do? What does that mean? Crew chief, crew members, a team.
I mean, it's such a rewarding experience because you're the guy. Yes, we talked last year about could we end up having a winner that's bumped out, but it's so rare that happens. You've basically put yourself in position. You now get the stress of making the playoffs removed from your shoulders, and you get to go race. Everything you do is just about how do I beat them? It's not how do I make the playoffs anymore. It's just how do I get better? And it's such an accomplishment. It's the Daytona 500.
Yeah.
It's the one race that you get to be called a champion, not a winner.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. Yeah.
So you come out of there, Monday, you hang around because Monday morning you present the car back into the Daytona
museum down there. Yeah.
Yep. So it's a spectacle, and one that's really just, you talk about speedway racing and think that it's luck. It's not.
No.
If you look at this, the guys that run up front all the time, and it's not because of luck. It's because they've figured it out. Now you are at the chance of, if there's a big wreck and you're caught in it, you can't control that always.
Right.
There's times you can back yourself back out of that and put yourself in a better position. And a lot of guys do that. The guys that are up front, there's a reason why there's certain guys that are big favorites for this. Yep. There's a separation.
There's a different group. Yep.
It is accomplishing this is, especially now that you've got the 2 Atlanta races. Speedway racing's become a bigger part of the makeup. So figuring this out and having that head start is just, it removes a huge load from your shoulder.
Really, truly does. We have got a big, big week down there. If you're watching this on Wednesday, it starts tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern time, Daytona 500 pole qualifying. Tomorrow, Thursday, 6 o'clock, the Blue-Green Vacation Duel at Daytona. On Friday, 5:30, Daytona 500 practice, and then the tough trucks of NASCAR. 7 o'clock on Friday evening, the NextEra Energy 250 for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Saturday, triple header coverage. Oh, this is going to be big. 10:30 in the morning, Daytona 500 final practice. At 1:30 in the afternoon, the Brent 200 supporting Florida FFA ARCA Menard Series season kickoff. We forget about our friends at ARCA, but they kick it off at Daytona, traditionally as they do. And then 4:30, it's the Beef It's What for Dinner 300 for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, all leading up to Sunday's running of the Great American Race, the Daytona 500, 1:30 Eastern Time, the Daytona 500 for the Cup Series.
Oh, and by the way, all of these crew chiefs and Jay talked about, we don't get a lap on the racetrack before we qualify. We don't have a practice till after we've set the field.
Right. You don't get a lap on the racetrack before you qualify, and your qualifying laps are the only laps you get before the duel.
Yes. Simulators have been burning up all
I am sure about that. I am fascinated about that. One other thing I want to mention to you is Motor Racing Network has a bevy of programs that you need to check out. Of course, NASCAR Live, every Tuesday night, our flagship show, Mike Bagley bringing you all the latest from the NASCAR community. NASCAR Live Wide Open is our new podcast. We started this last year, and that's our podcast of NASCAR Live. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, some unique content, really, really neat stuff. NASCAR Coast to Coast, where Kyle Rickey and Chris Wilner talk about the roots of NASCAR racing. They're up and running with racing action as well. Wing Nation, Aaron Evernham, Ashley Strummy and I, we talk sprint car racing. And of course, Crew Call, you need to put this on your weekly viewing. And hey, do us a favor, like and share and tell people you like Crew Call. Link to us at MRN or link to us on our YouTube channel. That really helps everyone, so we really do appreciate it. Fun stuff. The 75th anniversary of NASCAR. We are set to go, Todd. It's going to be a big, big year.
Diamond anniversary. It's going to be a big one.
Yes, it is.
Looking forward to what we can do and building off the momentum we had last year. It could be more parity, as James talked about, now that we've had everybody. I can't believe that we could have more parity than we did.
But when he talked about the noses and everything, that they'll be closer.
It's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. He's Todd Gordon. I'm Steve Post, and we appreciate and thank you for joining us here on MRN's Crew Call.